Just walking home after having a evening at Unlimited Potential meeting. Been discussing a few things along the lines of getting our membership communicating. Up sort of needs a blog, needs to sort of get the news and items of interest out there before they become a stale thing that no one really needs to know. We're also talking about doing an event, our next event being an expat event where we get a panel basically to answer questions around the scope of what's it like to move to New Zealand, move to Wellington in particular, jobs availability, and from the employer perspective, how hard it is to, the decisions you have to make around about a person being employed from overseas. You may not have physically met them, looking at a CV, interviews, and a few of those lines, and also topping up the expat New Zealanders going overseas. So there's a few interesting things around that space. They would like to put together a panel and discuss. Coming up also in the space is Software Freedom Day, later in the year, September. I know Wellilug is doing an event, thinking of doing an event, and we're discussing some things with a few of the open source people in Wellington to pull together an event. I'd love to see a sort of Linux expo or a open source expo where people can demonstrate a bit of the products and services available in Wellington or in the space, as well as some of the experiences, some of the misconceptions. I know I had fun today, sort of being asked to write a spec on some open source software to integrate it in, so completed that, submitted it, whereupon it was promptly shot down with a sort of view of, this is open source, the client will never accept that, which is a sort of misconception that really shouldn't exist these days, and how to work around that. So there's a lot of things along that line as well. I think also in the space is obviously gadgets, games and geeks. This year I'd love to see that ramp up a bit, showcasing a bit of the technology and also a bit of what people are doing with it, practical solutions. Practical solutions to enable and facilitate and optimize your digital lifestyle. Not just gadgets, but gadgets that work, workflows, what the geeks, myself included, are doing in the space that is sort of the leading edge almost of adoption, which the mainstream will start to see coming through. There's so much happening in Wellington that it's just cool space to be in, I think. From the Unlimited Potential point of view, we are needing to have a bit more people on the go. We've got a team full of some great ideas. We just need a few more people to pad it out in terms of actually fulfilling the vision. At any given event, we'll have sort of 3 or 4 people that are interested in it. Don't you love how dark it is here? Anyway, being lit by my screen's brightness and hitting trees. So every event there'll be, everyone does what they like to do. So I'm fairly passionate about open source. I'm fairly much a geek. I like my gadgets. And I have, some affinity with the expat community, I think, and a feeling, of we really do need to having a discussion about us sort of being almost the glue in the Wellington ICT scene, sort of bringing together a few of these disparate groups that have people that should really be talking to each other, that have probably not yet even met each other. And I think there's a lot of gains to be had for the city in that space. Coming up, also discussing unlimited potential and well, the bar camps happening in Wellington. There's a bit of there's a lot of impetus in this, and a lot of good people behind it, and tapping into some of that and getting a bit more, well, sort of support and infrastructure behind. I think the biggest problem for any group in Wellington is holding events in venues almost. I know Unlimited Potential is seeking at the moment to pull together a sort of event space to cater for around the sort of 150 people mark. We do events, sort of 300, 400, and obviously you're looking at event space, and sort of $5-10 per person sort of cost of venue hire. But finding a space that can fit around about 150, 200 in it would give us a lot more flexibility with some of these events, which are starting to max out smaller venues. And yeah, so there's a lot of interest, a lot of things happening in this space. I know personally I'd love to see a bit more online interaction, a few more of our events ending up on the web, online, maybe even live or partially live. Traditionally it's been a couple of months before our video goes up, and it's sort of kind of pointless almost. You're sort of missing the boat. Just going to run across the road. You're sort of almost missing that whole interest that Up used to have. They used to have a lot of ongoing interest. People would be keen, after an event, you go home with all that vibe to, you're keen on the next getting together. I mean, people get a huge buzz out of networking, and it's good to keep that buzz going, especially when you're talking like Up and getting people to talk to each other. Anyway, lights, pause. I think I'll be next. So yeah, I think I had a good evening. Obviously, the result of a good evening is that I have to walk home. There's no bus service to this place, the suburb where I live, after about 6, 7. But it's all good. It's 3.2 k's of stuff that's good for your health. I mean, speaking on a personal level, I really feel a need to start connecting up some of my local life. I mean, you won't be able to see down here, but I'm walking over this nice fibre duct at the moment, and of course Telecom putting fibre to every cell site they own, and in anticipation of the launch of their new 3G HSPDA 850 megahertz cell phone network in the next year, by the end of the year. Yeah, right, as they say. But this is the last mile. I'm walking over my 1.1 megabit of rusty fibre, rusty copper that I try and connect to the net with. Looking over that direction, there's fibre. There's some good Wi-Fi. I just haven't got off my ass and connected up. My house is sort of that direction. I'm currently walking over the bridge over the river into Totara Park, and I think connecting that up is a key point in starting to, if you build it, they'll come. I feel a need to start networking up. I'm just one big network whore. I feel this urge. I need to get people in Totara Park talking together. I'm catching this bus in the mornings, which goes commuter bus from Totara Park, and sort of getting to know a bit of the community there, and it's just that good feeling of people talking to each other, which I think sadly much of the time we've lost. We're sort of in an individualistic society almost that hasn't or doesn't really talk to each other. I mean, do you know who your neighbour is? Do you know who, the resources they can offer? I mean, when was the last time you asked for a cup of sugar? Example is, I might call my brother-in-law a mechanic when the car battery goes flat, rather than talking to the nearest neighbour, just because of the fact that the relationship sort of isn't there. You don't feel you can sort of wander over and ask them if they've got borrow their car engine for a second to jump start your car because you've left the door open. Well, in this case, your kid has, or someone. Yeah, we won't go into that. Anyway, just walking into Upper Hutt Darts Association. Great. I went for beforing the other weekend, and there was a huge number of people coming through there, probably 60, 80 odd trucks from around the place. It was a good turnout, and it's just I'd love to see all these people start to see each other as these commonalities between groups, between churches, between religions, between ICT sort of segments, open source, and I'm a dreamer. I'm totally a dreamer, but it really gets me going thinking about possibilities, and I'd love to get more into developing and, I don't know, just starting to implement some of these visions, or at least test them. Had this cool idea the other day of, sort of cycle track. People go out cycling, sort of just tracking trails, mapping out things, giving people, like the ability to upload their stuff, play around with some GIS stuff. It's all cool. I mean, yeah, I had a bit of play with the spatial stuff in MySQL the other day, MySQL, and was quite inspired. I mean, of course, doing it at work as well, to some degree helps. And just seeing, working with Windows every day, great. That's inspiring. You think of all the things that you've sort of taken for granted on, Linux and Apple platforms that seem to be lacking, and you sort of think, yeah, there's a lot of possibilities here. Anyway, I've rambled for like 13 odd minutes, and I really don't think you should be still watching this. I suppose, yeah, it's about a 20-minute walk, I suppose. 3 point something k's. It's about 800 or 900 meters from here to home. So I might as well stick with you. What else is in my thing? I had church recently. I go to Christian Fellowship in Upper Hutt, Lane Park, cfuh.org.nz. Sort of big church family. Some cool people go there. In fact, it's amazing sort of bump into people that in sort of the secular business sense at church, and I was like, hey, never actually knew. And I think that's a community that I haven't really tapped into. I've been going there for 7 years now. It's a fair while, but yet haven't quite fulfilled my potential. I do feel that I have a lot to give and a lot that I could get further from them. And yeah, I suppose I've been a little bit, to some degree, held back, with a new family and moving and life and work. But these are all excuses, eh? Can't let the excuses stay in your way too long. So yeah, I think a bit of push in that direction will help sort of round me out a bit. What else has been happening? I went through the mentoring training for working with mentoring prisoners and ex-prisoners through Prison Fellowship New Zealand. Recently, of course, a while back, the local prison Rimataka had lockdown on sort of visitor hours. They were quite restricted, and it meant that pretty much, anyone sort of working couldn't visit the prison. There's a lot that you can give back to these people that are, the restorative justice is a huge thing for me. I mean, I don't think we should be locking up people and throwing out a key. People have so much value in them, so much potential, and I think if we don't look at it from a restorative point of view, then all we end up with is people at the end of the day that aren't fulfilling their potential. They'll come out of prison and 2 months later they're back in there because the support structure of the prison is familiar with them. That it's something that they feel and they need. And I think replacing that off on the outside of prison is a key point in that sort of restoration of a person's life after the spending 10 years or whatever it is in jail. And I think even me with my sorry, just crossing the road, look both ways, as they say, even though there's nothing around. So I think I would like to sort of start to fulfil my potential there a little bit further. They've recently just reopened visitor hours, so it's now 8 till 6 or something, I think now. Previously they were locked down to pretty much only 6 hours a day during the middle of the day, which wasn't really too helpful. I don't think. I suppose you can see me. I can't see. Can you use it as a light? It's quite dark here. You probably can't see, but there's a lovely starscape above me, the Milky Way, and a dog that seems to take offence to me walking past. Another thing on the agenda for me is to suss out, sort of formalise MeshNet a bit. It's been languishing a bit. It's sort of gone into web hosting, which are pretty much doing at a cost plus basis to pay for my own hosting. 22 Denver Grove, just around the corner from home, through another alleyway. It seems to be taking off recently. I think I predicted a couple of years ago that in the race to zero that is hosting, I mean, no one's going to really want to pay for hosting. They can get stuff like that for free. Why would they want to pay for a web host? I sort of took the angle that people, to free people up from their current ISP sort of anguish. And that's why I ended up doing it myself. I purchased a domain, started running personal email address, so it was tied into a domain that I owned, and could manage, had a new mailbox, had 100 different email addresses, had sort of wildcards so you wouldn't get spam. You could do a unique address for everything you signed up to online. You could run your own OpenID server. You could run your own hosting, and with it, obviously, I bought in a cPanel package and a bunch of plugins and scripts. You can just, sort of plug in your own thing, install a CMS in a couple of clicks, that sort of thing. Just make it really easy and simple, and plugged it in. The front-end advertising hasn't been that good. I was offered in return for a website, one of the guys, Technophile, did some design work for me, which was fantastic. I've yet to sort that out. I've yet to put it up and get that going, because I think that's sort of just ticking over at the moment. It needs to ramp up a bit and help, well, more than pay for itself almost, because that's pretty much my geek budget. It's what buys hardware for expansion of MeshNet, the wireless end, the network end, which is languishing at the moment, mainly through lack of time. I've got this little Linksys WRT box that I've been working on with CafeNet. You might have seen my CafeNet setup I use for, say, Wellmic or whatever, enabling broadband through CafeNet at places that are sort of slightly out of the way, away from, just out of range. I mean, I was inspired by what Araneo was doing with, extending Fibre for the last mile, to sort of bring CafeNet. I mean, CafeNet is cheap and easy. It's all around the place. But take, for example, Wellmac's example. Their local CafeNet node doesn't reach to the venue they use for Turnbull House. So, it's a simple matter to bring in an aerial and pull it in. But at present, it involves a laptop, a switch, whole bunch of cabling and wires and an aerial, and I wanted to just turn that into one little box, tripod and aerial, obviously, with a WRT little firmware box. I started working on that and never really completed it. It does work, but I need to sort of sit down for a couple of hours in CafeNet and actually pin down a few of the things. I was having some DNS issues and a few other things, and it would be nice just to be able to have it that someone could plug it in, bring up a web interface and log in, because then I wouldn't have to attend some of these events, and as a result I could, for example, watch some of these events. I mean, include an IP camera with the box. Plug in the IP camera and I will quite happily stream it to the world, while sitting in my bedroom at home on my 1 megabit rusty copper, which Atrix has kindly opened up to full speed, which means I'll get 1.1 megabit, maybe. I think played around with a few things and disconnected a few things and had a play and managed to get a sort of 1.3 megabit through it, but place up the road, mate of mine went gaming there the other week. He's still on telecoms go large. He manages to pull in a couple of megabit, and yeah, I've had the texts out. They say the line's dodgy. They've swapped pairs. No real increase, no real decrease either. Basically, our line started getting crap after the network upgrades last time. So yeah, I'm keen to cable the place, get some fibre in, or hooking up to Mount Climbies or Araneo or something, and obviously share it around a bit. There's a lot of people out here that are suffering on slow broadband, well, if you call it that. So that's probably me in 25 odd minutes. I'm just coming around the corner to home around Hartford. and I've pretty much talked myself out. I suppose the last note in the latent potential development is to develop my relationship with my wife, with Quebec, with Claire, with my son, and well, be able to spend more time at home. And I see technology as an enabler for that, as I was talking about, sort of bringing events to me rather than going to them. I think that's the way it should be. You shouldn't have to travel 30 k's, spending your petrol money for an hour or two at a meeting when you can attend from home. The technology is there. It's just enabling people to use it. So yeah, some cool bar camps coming up. I intend to be onto that. So yeah. Speaking of mobile, I'm keen on getting a slightly more enabling mobile. This one was sort of free from Vodafone for being a loyal customer. Got a metal plaque for it and all, but it doesn't really cut it for, well, low light capabilities, for example. I mean, probably put this out as audio. Anyway, we're home, so I'd love to get a decent phone that could handle my daily life. Maybe an iPhone, but I don't know. I quite like the idea of GPS and tracking that way. Just checking the letterbox. So yeah, we'll see. Bring it on, I say. 3G iPhone. I'll be in the queue. Anyway, that's it from me, and hopefully give you a bit more of this in due course. Cheers. Bye. This is Joe from latentpotential.livejournal.com signing off. See ya.